Aloha mai kako. Welcome to the Music Within, the podcast focused on dignity, beauty, and truth. And we are, of course, in the lovely Honolulu, Hawaii at Holy Family Life Office. Mahalo for joining us today. And in fact, speaking of joining us, we have an incredible surprise guest for you who we'll introduce in a moment. But I am Maile Ayu Domingo, your host from Hamaui Local Foundation, a nonprofit whose vision is to uphold human dignity and build the culture of family. With our special guest today, I have been offering these incredible classes where we get together, talk story, and talk about our human sexuality since 2006, 2007, somewhere around there. And so it's really great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jimena Suarez, and I also co host this podcast with Miley. Thank you, Miley, for having me here for another week, another show. And I'm from Ecuador, but I live here in Hawaii for the last year. And we have an organization that is called Ama la Vida that we take care of the life of the unborn and especially their environment. And we started back in Puebla, and we do everything that we can to support pregnant women and also other organizations as Hamali Loco that are supporting the culture of life and family.
Yes, it's beautiful to be collaborating with Hime on this podcast. It's been fun. You know, you guys, we don't actually know each other, so we've been getting to know each other with this podcast. And we hope you've been enjoying it. Speaking of family and marriage, there's a couple of steps before that. You know, the old song, Eddie and Betty sitting in the tree. Kissing. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes the baby in the baby carriage. Believe it or not, that nursery rhyme is a great theological tool for us to talk about these seasons in our life. And before marriage comes engagement, and before engagement comes dating, and before dating, you better know who the heck you are because you're going to be demonstrating who you are in and through your body. And we had this great opportunity this past week to be on the Talk Story show with Lisa Gomes, the leader of the youth and young adult for the Diocese of Honolulu. And we were talking about what it is like to date. What do you need to be in that mode, right? And then how is it different from engagement? And how do you discern that your path is actually towards marriage? And it was a great show. But like all people in those stages, boys and girls have a thing, and their bodies want to speak union. And sometimes it speaks that even before we're ready for actual marriage, and we find ourselves with child, pregnant, and so this is a discussion that lends us to this moment, because oftentimes we are a young girl, we know a young girl who's finding herself pregnant, and she didn't plan that. But there are some amazing miracles happening within her. And so maybe she's discerning, how am I going to make it? I'm not ready to be a mother. And my parents are going to kill me, right? But we want to bring you the show today to talk about the miracles of what your body is capable of, what is actually happening in the different seasons in the womb, and most especially how we can talk about the beauty, dignity, and truth of the music within a mother's womb, the miracles therein. Before we do, though, you guys know we always like to bring you a little bit of news, and so Hime is going to share with us some amazing news.
Yes, so we have good news today. And as you know, there's the 40 Days for Life campaign here in Honolulu. And we go out and pray outside the Planned Parenthood Clinic at Britannia. And yesterday we have the first life saved that we know for sure, as a consequence of the presence of the volunteers of the campaign
Oh my
outside
gosh, what
Planned Parenthood.
happened?
And that's very exciting. According to the leader of the campaign, she said that is the first life saved for a fact because of the campaign, since she's been involved since 2018. Because we know that for sure there are many lives that are saved through the campaign. But yesterday, a girl took the flyer from one of the volunteers, and he told her, like, you have other options, we're here for you. And she just went in. After an hour and a half, 2 hours, she left the place, and she told the volunteer, I took your advice. I'm keeping my baby. And the volunteer was so happy when he was telling us. He was like telling the girl, yeah, it's alive. It's your baby. And it's amazing. Praise the Lord, because yesterday we tried hard so there would be volunteers all morning, because Tuesdays are the days that girls go, and there are many girls that choose to go on Tuesdays because on Saturdays there are too many volunteers. So probably it's I don't know, it's quiet on Tuesdays. But yesterday there were people praying, and we know for sure that is the power of prayer and also of teamwork. And yeah, that we know that we were praying the rosary, so we know that Our Lady, she was there.
Amen.
For 2 hours. So that's why it's a great miracle, because imagine to be inside the clinic for 2 hours and changing your mind and just leaving the place.
Wow.
And saying that it's not a problem anymore, it's my baby. So that is something that only the Lord can do in our hearts.
That's really amazing. And it's really beautiful to have people that you don't even know stand outside and pray for you because they believe in the dignity that you have as a young girl in this maybe worrisome moment of your life, that the child within you has dignity and value enough for strangers to show up and pray for you and believe that you have everything inside of you to go through this pregnancy, to bring this baby to term, and to perhaps mother this child or give it up for adoption, whatever your choices are. And I think that is really one of the wonderful things that we want to advocate, is that we have choices, and it's because we live in this amazing country that avails us our constitutional rights. Speaking of constitutional rights, we want to make you guys aware that in the state of Hawaii, House Bill 576, HB 576, is still under consideration and actually is receiving witnesses today at the state capitol. They are going to be receiving testimony in front of the Judiciary Committee and the Hawaiian Affairs Committee during the hearing at the Capitol. And so we just want to ask you to pray for these. And if by chance you are one to give testimony against this bill, we just want to lift that intention up right now. The bill authorizes non-physicians and nurses to perform abortions here in the state of Hawaii. And so we just want to keep that in prayer and remind all of you that your voice matters. Whether you're standing in front of a clinic that's performing abortions and your voice raising up to the heavens in prayer, or your voice in a written letter to your elected officials, or your voice to a friend that you may be a coworker that is having a hard moment, your voice that says, I'm here for you, I believe in you, whatever you need, we can help you.
Yes, and about this law, and it was interesting for me. Somebody just told me that maybe they are trying to pass this law because not not a lot of physicians, they want to do abortions anymore. And also they are just busy doing something else. And the statistics in the United States shows that the majority of the Americans are against abortion. So that would make sense. And that's why they are trying to formalize, to make it more like accessible for more people, for nurses and for these other people that are not physicians, because probably that they see that they are lacking the people. So I think that can be maybe a good news for us, and let's just keep praying that this law doesn't come through, but also let's keep praying for the end of abortion.
Amen. That's what we're here for, to advocate for the dignity of life. And in particular, we're going to be discussing some scientific revelations about the miracles of life in the womb. And we're going to be visiting some of the moments within the womb in these time periods, 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, and 6 to 9 months. And today we have an incredible guest. He's a dear friend, a mentor, and just a love in my life. He and his wife, Betty Coda. Ed is the founder of Coda Financial Group, but he and his wife are better known in these circles as advocates for marriage, advocates for parenting, advocates for the dignity of human sexuality, and basically lovey-dovey couples in the corner, right? Okay. So they are even well known in the worldwide marriage encounter circles, because currently they serve as the executive leaders for the state of Hawaii. And I wanted to personally welcome a dear friend, Ed Coda.
Oh gosh, Miley, thank you so much. It is so exciting to be here, and you know, you guys inspired me this morning, this first part of the talk, because I had not put myself out in the public eye before, but finally this equality, so-called Equality Act caught my attention, because I have several granddaughters who are in athletics, and I fear for their safety and health when you know, science is absolutely ignored by denying the biology of male and female, and the, you know, the strength and I don't want to go into that one, but anyway, I finally wrote my senators and representatives, and I got some feeble responses, but I responded right back again saying, how can you deny science and biology? Anyway,
Great.
Amen.
That's great.
So I am Ed Coda, and I have been married to my beautiful wife Betty for over 51 years. We have 6 children and 9 grandchildren, and I'd like to just start by sharing the honor and privilege and humble thankfulness that I feel for Betty having been open to carrying a new life inside her body that was half mine. In our ministry, we come across men all the time who feel so hurt and devastated by the loss of a baby that they know was half theirs when a woman commits an abortion without giving them any consideration whatsoever. And it is harmful. It requires healing, and anyway, men are part of this too.
You know, I think that's something that's rarely addressed, and almost never, that you men, you have not only a physical part to play with, but you have an emotional journey that you have to experience too. And I think it's widely unacknowledged. And thank you. Thank you for bringing to mind that our young men also have a struggle in this journey.
Well, you're welcome, and I know that way more men would speak out if they had a choice today. But, you know, what we do know about life is so phenomenal. Most people don't even realize that new life begins with fertilization in the fallopian tube. I don't know what they're teaching in our high schools today, but our granddaughters were a little surprised when we taught them about this. And it actually takes 6 to 9 days for the new life to implant in the uterus. And the Catholic Church has always taught that life begins at conception, because any time after that would be an arbitrary construct by man. I mean, think about it. Anyone that says life begins any time after that is making it up. The only true way you can know is that life begins at conception. And so that's why the Church remains especially opposed to the pill and the IUD, for instance. Both of these methods of contraception do not necessarily prevent fertilization, but they do prevent implantation, which effectively causes an abortion. And so they're known as abortifacients within the church circles. And it's very sad that a lot of women just think, popping the pill is a safe way to go to keep them from getting pregnant. But it's not keeping them from getting pregnant in many cycles. The chromosome that determines the sex of a baby is actually determined right at the moment of conception. And, this is all science, scientific facts. We've known this for years. And yet, why do people insist on denying science today? Just to make their own conscience feel better, I believe. But anyway, it's important to realize that right after implantation, the miracle of life begins. Blood vessels and lungs begin to form immediately, and at 3 weeks after conception, the heart is actually beating. Now, you have to go inside to detect that heartbeat, but there's all these states implementing the heartbeat law. If they truly implemented it correctly, it would be before the woman even missed her cycle.
Wow.
Most women
amazing.
don't even know they have a second heart beating in their bodies. During the second month, cartilage turns to bone, and fingers, toes, facial muscles develop, including eyelids. Internal organs are present and muscles begin to exercise. By 8 weeks, all body systems are present, including the start of teeth, hair, nose, lips, tongue, and brain waves can be recorded. The baby can touch, yawn, and hiccup.
That's really amazing.
It is so unbelievable that this new life has everything that it would need in such a short period of time. So by 12 weeks, or just 4 months, or less than halfway to natural normal birth, the baby gets fingernails, toenails, has his or her own fingerprints. At this point, the baby squints, swallows, moves the tongue, sleeps, awakens. Hair starts to grow, including eyebrows and eyelashes. Facial expressions can even be detected, and they're noticed to mimic those of the parents. By 5 months, the mother will definitely feel the baby move, stretch, and kick. By 6 months, the baby sleeps, wakes, and responds to sound, and has a good chance of survival if born. By 7 months, the eyelids open and close, and the baby can look around. He can taste and recognize parents' voices, along with having a strong grip. And by 8 months, the lungs are fully developed and ready to breathe air. Only time, nutrition, and protection are needed to prepare the baby for birth.
And with all these facts you're sharing, I just when I was listening, and I remembered about this question that somebody asked about if a baby would cry, even crying inside the womb, because you're telling us all of this that is happening inside the womb, how the baby is yawning and doing so many things that is invisible for us. But the baby can actually cry, but because there's no air inside the mother's womb, then that's why the cords, they don't make any sound. But they did this, they had to do this procedure where they have to inject an air bubble in the pregnant woman in their last trimester. And when the air bubble covered the child's face, the baby would inhale the air, allowing the vocal cords to operate. So
Wow.
producing a cry that was perfectly heard by everyone, even the doctor, the nurses, and even the parents. They say that when the mom would lay down to go to sleep, the baby would start crying so hard that both parents could not fall asleep.
Wow.
So imagine if because it's silent, it's invisible, but it's also silent. This baby, but if given the opportunity, the baby is expressing like is not happy because the mom is laying down. I'm crying, so you moved in another position. So it's so beautiful. I remember a person said that if every woman had their body as a crystal when they are pregnant, they would never even think about abortion, because if it's a crystal, then you can see.
everything.
So true.
That's a beautiful thought, actually. And I think this podcast together will be a little bit of that crystal enlightening what's happening within the womb. The science has been revealing things to us for 20 years, right, Eddie?
Oh my gosh. Do you know, we know the exact interaction of all the hormones that have to do with ovulation. We know their impact on the woman's body and how to actually observe all the changes so that we know whether we're in a time before ovulation, during it, or even after it, in every single fertility cycle. And it doesn't matter how long the cycles are or how short they are, all of the signs interact with these hormones, and they're all very detectable. But if we don't believe that, science also has endoscopes and fetal EEGs, electroencephalography, devices that can detect heartbeats and brain waves within 3 to 6 weeks of conception. Brain waves were actually recorded in a 45-day-old fetus that had to be aborted because of the life-threatening ectopic pregnancy, where it was conceived in the mother's fallopian tube. And the brain waves continued until about 90 minutes after the abortion. The struggle for life is unbending, even at that young age.
Unbelievable.
Yes, and it's so sad that many people, they are prone to think that a fetus can be aborted without major consequences, when this the science is telling us the opposite. That I love what you said, that how life struggles, and because nature is like that. Nature operates to save lives. So, for example, in an spontaneous or natural abortion, when the baby dies inside the mother womb, then nature cooperates so the baby doesn't stay inside and for the mother's health. But when it's an abortion that is induced, then nature does not cooperate, as you said. Not even doesn't cooperate with the doctors. On the contrary, the fetus struggles to save, even if of course doesn't have anywhere to go, but still is not cooperating. And also that's why we hear that sometimes women they are bleeding on these procedures, because it's against nature. Nature doesn't want you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I remember seeing a video of an active abortion, and as the doctor was placing tools into the womb to separate the limbs of the baby and remove it from the mother's womb, the baby would try and like evade the grasp of these tools.
Oh,
And you could just see like this baby didn't want to be harmed. It didn't. It was a trying to avoid the violence that was happening within that mother's womb, and it's just again the pursuit and the effort that even in the womb to perpetuate life is phenomenal.
And sometimes when they ask me like, why do you defend the life in the womb? And actually, I watched that video, and at the same time, I was reading a news about the crisis in Africa, that they were burning the huts of people, and a man was coming back from working in the fields, and he saw his house burning with his family inside. And you know what he did? He ran the other direction because he knew that if he would come to his house, they would kill these groups, violent groups. They would kill him too. And I realized, that there's a person that is more vulnerable in the world, that even this poor man that his family is hurting, because he had at least the opportunity to run for his life, because that's natural for a person. Even like seeing his family there, he struggled to save his life. But this poor kid, I watched that film and I was like, this poor kid doesn't have anywhere to go. You're not giving, it's not fair. You're not giving the opportunity. But it's so sad that this little kid is doing the same as this man. He's trying to move somewhere, but is in their mom's body should be the sanctuary of the baby.
Yes, these these are just indicative of the question that is of the 21st century. But prior to the 21st century, everyone knew that life was happening within the womb, and even the Aztec communities who performed human sacrifices, the sign that they indicated a woman was pregnant was a black ribbon around the tummy. At the earliest and most immediate time, they knew that life was present in the womb. And so we really relish the chance to point out the science that indicates to us that life truly has begun in the womb and at conception.
Yes. Science again. In medical terms, from the moment of conception, the fertilized egg is called a zygote. As it divides into more cells and travels down the fallopian tube, it becomes a morula, and when it reaches the uterus in 6 to 9 days, it becomes a blastocyst. The blastocyst burrows into the uterine lining, and so all of the astonishing growth of a human life, which is significant enough in the first 6 days to have 3 names by science, is trying to be denied as a new life. Human chorionic gonadotropin, HCG, which suppresses menstruation so a new life can develop in the womb, is actually released once the new life reaches the 8-cell stage just a few days after conception while it's still in the fallopian tube. It's as if it's already saying, don't slough off the uterine lining, I'm on my way, please save a place for me. The process of becoming pregnant is totally in God's hands. Even under the most ideal of circumstances, the chances of achieving pregnancy when you're trying hard to do it is only 35% success rate.
Wow.
So it's totally in God's hands, and I think that's the first place people who are having problems getting pregnant need to turn, is to pray to God. I wish we had this knowledge when it took us 3 years after we got married to achieve our first pregnancy. We thought we were not fertile, and actually Betty hated every pregnant woman she saw. She was so jealous. And it was, hard comforting her, but God finally did bless us after we put in for adoption papers. we're very sensitive to the plight of those having difficulty seeking pregnancy, and it's becoming even more problematic all the time. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with the hormones that women are putting into their body, perfectly healthy body, to alter it, that are altering their chances of pregnancy as well. There are studies that are actually searching for that right now. But the Couple to Couple League for Natural Family Planning did a study and realized that 88% of those having problems getting pregnant that came to learn the symptothermal method of natural family planning achieved pregnancy within the first 6 months after taking the classes.
Great, that's amazing.
Knowledge is power.
Yes.
People need the correct information, you
And
know.
understanding what's happening in our body, not only as a woman, but as a man, our fertility awareness, right? It's such a power to behold.
Yes, and I think like these kind of methods are like you can see for sure the couples how they change when they start charting. So yeah, I understand like what you're saying because even like in my couples, they are not like pregnant yet, but it's so nice to see them how they are more connected. They thank you, they feel, I don't know, they, of course, their health is getting better because we advise them simple things like vitamins, but they didn't know that this existed. So it's amazing knowledge, as you're saying.
Yeah, it's you know, we've been named as godparents for so many children over all these years that we've been teaching this method, and you know, I had one really close friend heard us do a talk, but he and his wife were having problems getting pregnant. They hadn't taken our classes or anything, but he went to a fertility clinic and they sent him into a room to produce a specimen and gave him a DVD and a pornographic book, hoping it would help him provide the specimen.
I've never heard of that.
And he was feeling guilty, and he called me, and I was at lunch. He called me and told me that he wasn't feeling right and where he was. I said, "Get out of there now. We have a class next week. You and your wife come." And they came, and within 2 months, they were pregnant.
Wow.
And so we are the godparent of that child. But
That's great.
it's so sad that people just don't get it. They're so brainwashed by our societal norms, and knowledge is all they need. Truth, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not deny truth.
Well, I think there is something to be said about that knowledge because in the deepest places of our heart, we all want to be known. And when couples study their fertility, their mutual fertility, right? We feel known. And when we feel known by our beloved, our spouse, our partner, guess what we want to do? Yeah, we want to unite. And all those good things begin to chemically happen in the body that promote the conception of life. And it's really beautiful. All these facts and information are so amazing and believable because they can be proven. And I liked your question, Eddie. What are they teaching in the schools today? Because science has brought us so far that we absolutely can confirm the moments of conception, the moments of fertility, and our body will indicate those things. And it's really a gift to be able to explore these moments within the womb, because that life within the womb has dignity, and that woman that's carrying that new life within the womb, as terrified as she may be. I know I was one of those girls. I was in college and I found myself pregnant, and I thought my dad was going to kill me. And I wanted to hide, and but I knew it was a baby, so abortion was not even a thought in my mind. But I tell you what, it was a temptation. It was. Because if I had convinced myself that that baby in my womb was just a tissue or a zygote or whatever terms you use to describe those
Yes.
first few cell multiplications, but I knew in my heart of hearts that was a baby. And my next step was to go home and tell my dad. I was terrified. I thought he would hate me. I thought he would just disown me. And I thought my church community would disown me because, oh no, that girl isn't living the right way. But what I discovered was that my dad was like so happy that he was going to have a grandchild. And I was in shock at how great the love of my church community was. They just embraced me and they helped me welcome this new child. But the other thing that happened was the father of the child. He became the father of all my children, and he became my husband. And it was because of the love and acceptance of not only my father, but of the church during that very difficult part of my life journey. And I'm so grateful for that.
Well, I can give you the father's perspective or the soon-to-be grandfather's perspective, because our daughter came to us, Betty and me, needing to talk, wanting both of us present, and totally crying and upset and thinking that, the worst would happen, I'm sure. And when she finally spilled it to us and said that she was pregnant and, looked at me and I wasn't saying anything, and she finally said, well, what about you? And I said, well, this is the happiest day of my life. I was so excited at the prospect of a grandchild.
Yes.
So, ironically, she said she would never have kids because she felt like she had to raise ours. So God took care of her and me.
He took the initiative. He's like, okay, you're gonna have your baby. And I know that maybe for the people that are listening to us, they are like, oh, but these are special situations because these people, they are like so into life. But actually, in our organization, we work with women that are pregnant and under vulnerable situations. And we had this girl, and she didn't have a place to stay because she didn't have parents. She was living at her boyfriend's house, and the boyfriend and the mom of the boyfriend, they wanted her to get an abortion. So the girl was running away, staying at these pregnancy centers, and we talked to her, and she ended up keeping the baby. Well, she was again dating the boy, and he accepted it. And at the day when the baby was born and we went to visit her, the happiest people there were the grandparents, even the ones that were actually proposing her, like giving her the option of they told her that they would pay for the abortion. Nobody was happier than them. The granddad was holding the baby and didn't want to give the baby to the mom, and it was like his treasure. It was the best thing for him. Like looking at his face, that was amazing. And this is what life does to our hearts. Like we've been told lies, I think, for our society, because this is just a happy and beautiful moment for families. So our message is that there would be more people to support you or your friends, if you're listening, that you imagine.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, let's support the men and women in our community who are having babies, whether they're married or not. Let's embrace them. Let's take them into our home. Let's give them clothes, blankets, diapers, bottles, whatever they need. They need to know that they can do it and that we're there to help them because of that miracle within their womb. We know that this message can help someone out there. And we ask that you would share our podcast with your friends and family. Hamawi Local Foundation is on YouTube. And we just ask that you would subscribe to our channel. If you have difficulty finding it, if you look for TOB Mindset in the search bar, you'll find some of our videos. Visit hamaliloko.org to support our ministry. Consider giving us a monthly donation through PayPal or through Venmo, and help us continue to spread the word about the dignity of the human person, especially the one in the womb. Our next show actually continues a similar conversation about healthy choices. We're going to be talking about chemicals in the body, specifically relating to contraception. I just want to thank Hime and Ed for joining us today and being part of this great conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. This is wonderful. I'm so happy you're doing this.
Thank you, Miley, for having us for another show. And we'll be here next week for another show. Thank you.
As we close out today, I want to bring that image that Hime brought to us, which is that glass house. Think of that young woman and the life development that we would be able to observe and peer at if she were totally exposed, because she was crystal glass and we could see how that development, you could see the music within. Aloha and mahalo. This is Maile Ayu Domingo signing off for the music within.